Hello and welcome to this Tuesday edition of the World Report with me, Arjun, Samar, Mahendran. US President Donald Trump said Monday that the United States will hold talks with Iran. Now, Trump said, and I quote here, they've requested a meeting, and if we can put something down on paper, that will be fine. It'll be good. Trump's Middle East envoy, meanwhile, Steve Witkoff, has said the meeting will take place in the next week or so. Meanwhile, listen into what Donald Trump had to say.
We have scheduled Iran talks, and they want to talk. They took a big drubbing. I think when we hit the three sites, really, I would say the three sites, not just the one. The one was a big one, and it was deep in granite, and it was obliterated.
Meanwhile, my colleague Vishal Vivek joins us for more on this. Vishal, Witkoff hinting that there'll be talks this week itself, and Trump at the same time not sounding too convinced by the entire idea. What can we expect from these talks?
But Arjun, at the same time, Trump has confirmed that there will be talks indeed, and there were speculations that when these talks would happen, so there's a timeline on that as well. Now we know that the talks could happen in the next 7 days or so. What could be discussed in the meeting, that is to be seen. There could be several things discussed because Trump has also hinted that there could be sanctions relief for Iran. Iran has been weighed down by sanctions for decades now. Its exports have been plummeted throughout the time in the recent past as well. So that will have to be figured, and both the sides have been had been talking regularly in the recent past. But after the attacks conducted by Israel and US on Iranian soil, those talks had gone into disarray. So if those talks again realign, that will have to be seen how quickly both the sides can get on the table and arrange for some level of agreement, so that the all important US-Iran nuclear talks could progress further.
Of course, thank you so much for putting things in perspective for our viewers there, Vishal. Moving on, an Indian family of 4, including 2 children, were charged to death after a truck crashed in their vehicle in Dallas on Monday. Now, the Hyderabad-based family, identified as Tejaswini and Sri Venkat, and their 2 children, in fact, were reportedly on a vacation in the United States. Now, they had driven to Atlanta last week to visit their relatives and were returning to Dallas when the incident took place. My colleague Uma gets the latest.
Extremely tragic incident of these 4 members of an Indian family who died because their car went up in flames. What we understand is that Sri Venkat and his wife Tejaswini, along with their 2 children, 2 school-going children, had gone on a holiday to the US, and they had gone to spend a week at Atlanta with some relatives. And when they were returning from Atlanta to Dallas in a car, we understand that their car met with a head-on collision with a mini truck in a place called Greene County. The truck is said to have been coming in the wrong direction, and the impact of the accident was such that the car went up in flames and there is no opportunity for anyone inside to escape the fire. So while people passing by have shot certain videos of the car going up in flames, no one could be saved from the car, and therefore the police there saying that they will be conducting DNA analysis of whatever bones or other materials that are left before handing over the mortal remains to the family. In Hyderabad, where the family is said to have resided at Kompally, which is called also Suchitra, in that area I spoke to the local inspector, and he said that while they have information about the accident and the place where they were residing, no one had come forward to seek any kind of a help from the local police as of now.
Staying with the US, a flash flood in Texas killed more than 100 people over the 4th of July holiday weekend, and in fact left others still missing. Now, this includes girls attending a summer camp. The devastation has drawn a massive search effort as officials face questions over their preparedness and the speed of their initial actions. Now, the floods grew to their worst at the midpoint of a long holiday weekend when many people were in fact asleep. Survivors have described the floods as a pitch-black wall of death and said they received no emergency warnings from the administration whatsoever. US military troops and federal immigration officers made a mighty but brief show of force Monday at the MacArthur Park, dubbed the Ellis Island of the West Coast, Now, this as the community hub of a largely immigrant neighborhood in Los Angeles. About 90 National Guard troops and dozens of federal officers descended on the park in the morning that was nearly empty after word spread of a potential raid. Even as he slapped fresh tariffs in 14 countries, US President Donald Trump on Tuesday said the country was close to making a trade deal with New Delhi. Trump said, "We made a deal with the United Kingdom, we made a deal with China, and we're close to making a deal with India now." He also added that letters stating fresh tariffs were sent to other countries. Now, his remarks come after he announced new trade measures with countries including Bangladesh, Thailand, South Korea, and even Japan to come into effect starting the 1st of August. Trump has slapped new tariffs in 14 countries with some as high as 40%. Myanmar and Lagos have taken the biggest hits, facing 40% tariffs. Now, other countries like Japan, South Korea, and even Indonesia are also on the list. They're all part of what Trump calls a plan to fix unfair trade deals and to protect U.S. jobs. Now, Trump said letters to major trading partners, including Japan and South Korea, dictating new blanket tariffs. The letters, which caused U.S. stocks to tumble, are a message to those countries where White House officials don't believe that trade talks are going particularly well. Now, this was confirmed by a former trade negotiator. The notices also deal a blow to hopes that Trump will scale back tariff threats and de-escalate trade war, some experts argue. Meanwhile, listen to what Trump said, followed by Caroline Leavitt and the White House.
Are the tariff letters that you sent today final offers, or are they negotiable?
Well, that's final offer.
So South Korea, Japan should take it or
We're
leave
always
it?
subject to negotiate something that's fair, but we've talked to most of the countries, and pretty much they've had their way for many, many decades, as you know. And it was time that we just wanted fairness. This is not really equitable from our standpoint, because it's just a small token by comparison to the damage that's been done over the years. But we had no other president that was willing to do this. I did it in my first term with China and others. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars of tariffs. No inflation, the most successful period of time that we've ever had financially in the country. The first term. I think this term is going to be much better, even much better than that. That was the best ever, and this is going to be, I think, substantially better. And we're on the way to doing that.
There will be approximately 12 other countries that will receive notifications and letters directly from the President of the United States. And weeks ago, I stood at this podium and I told all of you that the President was going to create tailor-made trade plans for each and every country on this planet. And that's what this administration continues to be focused on. The President will also sign an executive order today delaying the July 9th deadline to August 1st. So the reciprocal tariff rate, or these new rates that will be provided in this correspondence to these foreign leaders, will be going out the door within the next month, or deals will be made. And those countries continue to negotiate with the United States. We've seen a lot of positive developments in the right direction, but the administration, the president, and his trade team want to cut the best deals for the American people and the American worker.
On the other hand, China has warned that the Trump administration on Tuesday. It has in fact warned the Trump administration on Tuesday against reigniting trade tensions by restoring tariffs on its goods next month, and has also threatened to retaliate against nations that strike deals with the U.S. to cut China out of the supply chains. Washington and Beijing agreed to a trade framework in June that restored a fragile truce, but with many details still unclear, traders and investors on both sides of the Pacific, in fact, are closely watching what follows. Meanwhile, Benjamin Netanyahu says he still plans to travel to New York City or NYC, despite the U.S. Democratic Party's nominee for the mayor of the city, Zohran Mamdani, in fact, pledging to arrest the Israeli premier, citing the ICC arrest warrant against the Israeli Prime Minister. Now, when asked if he's concerned about Mamdani's pledge, Netanyahu told reporters before his dinner with Trump that he is not concerned about it. Meanwhile, Trump assured Netanyahu that he would get Mamdani out. And PM Narendra Modi is in Brasilia. Fresh off the BRICS summit in Rio, PM Modi kicked off his state visit to Brazil. Treated with a vibrant samba reggae performance and a warm welcome from Brazil's defense minister, Modi called the Rio leg productive, praising the BRICS talks with his meetings with global leaders. Now in Brasilia, the PM is set for big talks with President Lula Ignacio da Silva. Now this also includes everything from trade and tech to defense, health and energy as well. And the Indian diaspora, well, they're fired up to welcome him at every stop, as you see on your screens right now. Now these visuals, viewers, are testament, one, underlining the fact that from Rio to Brasilia, India's global push is in full swing. Meanwhile, we spoke to an international relations analyst from Sao Paulo. Here's what he has to say.
Narendra Modi's visit to Brazil in the 2025 BRICS summit is marked by a very strategic milestone in India's global outreach and a calculated effort to reposition the bloc within this evolving multipolar order. It was the first official state visit by an Indian prime minister in many decades, and it came with substance, agreements on trade. Also, we can't leave out renewable energy, agriculture, security cooperation. But I think that beyond the bilateral deliverables with Lula, Modi's presence, I think it sends a very important message that India intends also to lead the BRICS, not only as a passive member, but as a pragmatic and autonomous actor committed to institutional reform and the demands of the global south. And I think also in this context, it's very important for the bloc that I think has this little, I think we could call it this autocratic face. A lot of people, especially people from Europe, in the United States, they say that that's how the BRICS bloc, it looks like a bloc that is formed by autocratic governments. It's very important that Brazil is there alongside with India as well as South Africa and give the bloc this more democratic dynamic.
In a dramatic White House moment, viewers, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu surprised Donald Trump with a Nobel Peace Prize nomination letter and also handed it over to him on the spot, as you see there right now. Meanwhile, Trump, clearly surprised, called the nomination very meaningful. Meanwhile, Netanyahu has backed Trump's Gaza plan at a press event. In fact, he praised Trump's idea of a free choice, saying Gazans who want to leave the war zone should be allowed to. Meanwhile, my colleague Vishal Vivek joins us to shed light on what Trump's plan for Gaza actually is. Over to you, Vishal.
So, Arjun, this plan of Trump was proposed way back in February this year. So, according to that plan, the US authorities will move about 2.1 million Gazans out of the enclave. This is what the main agenda of the whole plan is. This is, of course, being discussed. It's not been formalized, and there have been several backlash also about this. They want to transform this enclave into a Riviera, is what Trump had claimed, and the proposal had been dubbed serious violation of international law. So this is what the reaction had been from the Gazan authorities, and some Middle East nations have also rejected the plan, especially Egypt and also Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia seems to be one of the biggest allies of US, but it has nonetheless rejected the plan. And according to a local poll conducted by CNN inside US territory, this is one of the least popular Trump actions or proposals in his history. And also according to the same poll, 58% of the pollsters described the plan as a bad thing, and only 13% of the pollsters supported this plan. So that goes to show this is not a very popular proposal from the Trump side. It will have to be seen how this unfolds and how the world actually accepts this.
Thank you so much for getting us the latest there, Vishal. Meanwhile, PM Modi's visit to resource-rich Namibia this week reflects New Delhi's desire for more critical minerals, analysts are arguing. Now, during the trip, which follows PM Modi's stop in Ghana last week, the Premier is expected to discuss access to critical minerals, uranium supplies, and, of course, the diamond trade. Amid continued turmoil and confusion over his threats to tax foreign imports into US, President Donald Trump held out a new warning to any country aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of the BRICS bloc. They'll be charged an additional 10% tariff without expectations, Trump said. China on Monday said the BRICS grouping is not seeking confrontation, responding to US President Donald Trump's threat to impose an additional 10% tariff on countries aligning with the bloc's anti-America policies, so as he claims. Listen in. Russia's transport minister was found dead from a gunshot wound in an apparent suicide, investigators said Monday. Now, news that broke hours after the Kremlin announced he had been dismissed by President Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin did not give a reason for the firing of Roman Stralovoy, who served as the transport minister since 2024 May, and it was uncertain when exactly he died and whether it was related to an alleged embezzlement case, as some Russian media are suggesting. Meanwhile, foreign tourists are trickling back to China after the country loosened its visa policy to unprecedented levels. That's correct, viewers. Citizens from 74 countries can now enter China for up to 30 days without a visa. It's a big jump from previous regulations. The government has in fact been steadily expanding visa-free entry in a bid to boost tourism, the economy and its soft power as well. Over 4,000 people, including women and children from Myanmar, fled to Mizoram in the last few days and have in fact now taken shelter in two locations of the Champhai district in Mizoram's Champhai districts, officials said. Now, officials are also saying that the refugees started entering the state through areas of eastern Mizoram's Champhai district since the 3rd of July, following violence between two ethnic groups in the neighboring country. The Assam Rifles, meanwhile, have been safeguarding the India-Myanmar border and recently have also stepped up the security efforts. Shipping Minister Sarbananda Sonowal has said that the distance between Mizoram's Aizawl and West Bengal's Kolkata will be shortened by a whopping 700 kilometers by 2027. Now, this comes as India, with the help of Myanmar, will be able to operationalize the Kaladan Multimodal Transit Transport Project, or the KMMTTP, by then. The project will be India's alternative to the Chicken's Neck and will help bypass Bangladesh. Here's more.
And Kaladan River, 159 kilometer up to Palatwe, and from there to the Indian border, Mizoram. So 110 kilometers, like on a road part that is under construction. By 2027, it will be completed. The definitely entire out of the Act East policy announced by Honorable Prime Ministers. The target is very clear. We should make all the available opportunities properly explored so that a northern region can be accessible to the global market.
Police in Kenya clashed with demonstrators on Monday during the latest anti-government protests, killing 10 people, according to state-funded Human Rights Commission. Authorities, meanwhile, blocked major roads leading into the capital, Nairobi, and most businesses were also closed amid the strictest measures yet, in fact, to contain the unrest. Protesters lit bonfires and threw stones at police. Here's more.
The reason we are protesting is because the government we are still trying to get this together here so that we can listen to the people, and nobody's listening. So that's why you're protesting. Extrajudicial killing, you can see corruption in the government, and nobody's in anywhere.
It's time we step into a short break. Much more on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching The World Report on NDTV. Now, news from the world of business, where stock markets have steadied after the latest twist in US President Donald Trump's tariff saga. The US President rolled out new sets of tariffs on Tuesday as the dollar held on to gains and oil retreated. Shares on Wall Street fell after Trump sent letters to 14 countries, including Japan and South Korea, unrevealing sharply high tariffs on imports into the United States, while also postponing their implementation on the 1st of August. Novartis on Tuesday said it had received approval in Switzerland for a Quartum baby, which it said was the first drug to treat malaria in babies and young children as well. 8 African countries who participated in the assessment are now expected to issue quick approvals for the treatment, which is also known as the Riame baby in some countries. News from the land down under, where Australia's central bank held its policy rate firm at 3.85%, saying it needed more time to assess inflation data. Meanwhile, economists polled by Reuters had been expecting a cut of 25 basis points to 3.6%. In its statement Tuesday, the Revenue Bank of Australia said it was waiting for a little more information to confirm that inflation remains on track to reach 2.5% on a sustainable basis. Samsung Electronics on Tuesday projected a far worse than expected 56% plunge in second quarter operating profit. Now, this is due to weak AI chip sales, deepening investor concerns over the tech giant's ability to in fact revive its struggling semiconductor business. The world's biggest memory chip maker blamed the profit miss on US restrictions on advanced AI chips for China. However, analysts said that the decline was also due to delays in supplying high bandwidth memory or HBM chips to key US customers. World of sports, Jofra Archer is fit and ready to go if called upon for England's third test against India, coach Brandon McCullum has said. Now, this comes as the injury-plagued fast bowler edges closer to a return in the longest format. Archer has taken 42 wickets in 13 test matches but has not played in the format since February 2021 after a succession of elbow injuries and back issues, in fact, sidelined him for long periods. Superman actors and their friends hit the red carpet on Hollywood Monday for the premiere of James Gunn's new Superman film. Now, the film marks the beginning of a reboot of the DC Comics movie universe and also features David Cornsweet as the new Man of Steel, Rachel Brosnahan as the intrepid reporter Louis Lane, and Nicholas Hoult as the villain Lex Luthor. It lands in theaters in the US this Friday. Something to look forward to there. Iron Maiden got minted in their 50th anniversary. That's correct. The British heavy metal band got their very own coin, joining the likes of musical royalty in the Royal Mint's Music Legends series, which has previously celebrated the likes of Queen, Elton John, and David Bowie. The band is formed of Bruce Dickinson, Steve Harris, Nico McBrien, and Dave Murray, Adrian Smith, and Janik Keres. Meanwhile, Ringo Starr celebrated his 85th birthday on Sunday by continuing his annual tradition of spreading a message of peace and love. Now, it's a mantra, viewers, he shared with fans around the world every 7th of July since 2008. The Beatles drummer marked the occasion in Beverly Hills, surrounded by family, friends, and fellow musicians. Now, among those in attendance were his wife Barbara Bach, son Zach Starkey, and longtime friend and Eagles guitarist Joe Walsh. Here's more. And well, that's all we have for you this Tuesday on The World Report. Take care and have a wonderful day.